Carissa. Um, I'll try not to be too discombobulated. I was trying frantically, I promise I was. But it is nice to meet you all. Thanks for being here. I'm glad to be able to chat with you all. I'll share just a little bit about me. This can be super informal. My dog might bark, my husband might walk by in the background, so just ignore the work from home struggles. But I'm Carissa. I'm from Arlington. I currently live in Dallas. I've worked in advertising for a little over 6 years, I think. I'm currently an account supervisor at Saatchi Saatchi in Dallas. My main client is Toyota. I'm currently working on the new Sienna launch. We'll talk about that a little bit more as we go through this process. I got married last year. I'm a Philly fan, married to a Cowboys fan, so that's a struggle. I have a wiener dog. Like I mentioned, she's asleep right now. We'll hope that she stays that way. And I survived COVID this year and an election. So, woo, good 2020 for me. I'll jump right into it. I'm not sure if you already said this, but I went to UT for undergrad. I had a double major, PR and human relations. When I was in college, I was really involved with event planning on campus. That was kind of what I thought I wanted to do for a while, either for a university or, just weddings, parties, whatever. I soon learned I did not want to do that. We can talk about that later more if y'all want to. While I was in college, I worked at the registrar's office and I interned everywhere that I possibly could. So when I would come back home for summers, I interned at a police department in their like media department. That was interesting. I worked for PR firms, advertising agencies, marketing firms. I studied abroad and I had a really awesome experience with Aegis Media. We can talk about that if y'all want to. And then I did several stints at PR agencies because that's the direction that I thought I wanted to go, but obviously I didn't. And then I graduated in the spring of 2013. And much like y'all, when you graduate, probably, jobs might be hard to find. So that was definitely the case for me. And I ended up working at the registrar's office for a bit longer than I would have preferred. I had to go back and get an internship before I found a full-time job. And so it was probably about maybe 9 months or so of kind of being in limbo, figuring out where I was going to go and what I wanted to do. I definitely wanted to stay in Austin, which made it a little bit harder for me. But ultimately, I found a job. I don't know what my next slide is, y'all. Okay, not that yet. I will talk about my first job in a little bit, but I share this much about undergrad just because I feel like it's really important to call out that college is a time for you to be busy. I know that we all think it's a time to have fun too, and it can be. But I really feel like I used that time really wisely, working, interning, making connections, just staying involved, staying active. And then that leads me to this first point, which is learning what you want to do is just as important as learning what you don't want to do. So that's why I interned so much because, I thought I wanted to go in one direction and then life brought me in a completely different direction. So I'm happy to talk about my intern experience, but since we're low on time, I want to just kind of keep rolling through and get to Toyota, which is what I hope y'all will find to be the fun stuff. But my first advertising experience was at a small healthcare agency in Austin called HCB Health. And while I was working, I got bored. I'm kind of a nerd and I really like school. So I was like, well, maybe I should go back and get a master's while I can. I have time. And so that's how I got to Texas State, which is how I got here talking to y'all. But I got a master's of arts in Mass Comm I was in school with Nicole actually, from fall 15 to spring 17, wrote a thesis, did all the things, but I never stopped working. And I don't know about Nicole's experience, but I will say the one thing that I realized when I was at Texas State was that I was one of the few people that had a full-time job. I remember there was a guy who was a reporter. There was a guy who worked at like a smaller digital shop. But I would say that I found it very valuable to be working, getting agency experience, and then being able to come to school class and being able to apply what I was learning in real time and vice versa. So oh boy, you're not saying something. Oh no. Y'all aren't seeing my PowerPoint? I've been sharing this whole time.
No worries.
What are y'all seeing?
But we're seeing you.
Oh
There you go.
no.
Don't worry about it.
So lame. Sorry, y'all.
Nah,
Okay.
don't worry about
Dang.
it.
It was so good. It really wasn't that good. Okay. So there's that. So enough with that. Then I graduated and I was like, okay, I'm ready to leave Austin. So I applied for two jobs, one at Toyota and one at Saatchi and Saatchi. Um, I had my interview process went super fast. My current employer found my Mass Comm experience and my thesis very interesting, and it ultimately ended up being a great talking point. I want to pull the chat up because I feel like y'all are talking and saying things that I should be responding to. So let me try to pull that up so I can answer y'all in real time if that's gonna work. It
Right
might
now,
not.
we don't have anything. It was more
Okay,
of a,
good.
we can't see the slides, but you know what we
Oh,
can do to kind of help you out is that maybe if you want to just check in every once in a while, or maybe I'll raise a hand
yes.
and just answer
That
any questions that come up. How's that
That
sound?
would be good because I cannot find the chat box on my screen. So
No worries.
I'll just keep powering through. So I share this point just because I feel like it's important to show some personality during your interviews. Your resume is a great snapshot of what you've done and what you've learned, but it can be or not be a great snapshot of who you really are. And especially in advertising, people want to know that you're the right fit for their team and the right fit for their client. So don't be afraid to show some personality, to talk about what you like to do. You're not a robot, you're a human being. You have interests, you have likes, you have dislikes, and that's okay. Because the last thing you would want to do is to go into a job expecting one thing and getting a completely different thing. So I remember in my interviews with Saatchi, kind of my thing is red lipstick. Not today, we're at home, but it's a thing that I do when I interview. I have like huge curly hair generally, and I found that some people liked it and some people didn't. The people who didn't, I probably wouldn't want to work there anyway. Advertising is a great industry. I feel like it really lets you be yourself. It's relaxed, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But show some personality. Don't go in there and be awkward and robotic. Like, have a conversation with people. Those connections are just really, really important. So that's my second point. On to Dallas. So Saatchi and Saatchi is a huge agency. We have about 300 people in LA and probably 100 people in Dallas, maybe a little bit more. We're part of Publicis Group, which is one of the oldest and largest holding companies in the world. Their headquarters are located in France. But Saatchi and Saatchi, LA and Dallas being the newest office, was a result of Toyota moving their headquarters to Plano. So they're located about 20 to 25 minutes north of us in Dallas, and then our offices are in Uptown. So I was hired on at the Dallas office when we were expanding. So I really got to see kind of Toyota settle into the Metroplex and then really learning how to work by agency. So, LA being 2 hours ahead of us and then the clients being here is a really interesting challenge that I think we're still working through every day. Makes it a little easier when you're working from home, but nonetheless, definitely still a challenge. So I'm going to take my AirPods out, attempt to play this video. Hopefully, y'all be able to hear it. And this is basically just a Saatchi reel of creative. I thought that y'all might like to see that. So give me 1 second.
We can't hear anything yet, but
Sorry, y'all can hear me now. I can hear y'all now. Okay. Tell me one more time if y'all could hear that video.
We could not hear the video.
Okay. It should work now. 1 second.
Ask for it, you got it.
Oh, we can hear it, we can't see.
Oh, what a feeling, Henry. Who could ask for anything more? Toyota.
We're going to try this one more time from the top and
You
hope
got it.
y'all can hear and see it. I do this every day, I promise, and it is not always a complete and utter mess. So one more time.
Love what you do.
Please go to the beginning. Okay.
You ask for it, you got it. Toyota. Oh, what a feeling, Henry. Toyota. Who could ask for anything more? Toyota. I love what you do for me. Toyota. I love every day.
Toyota, let's go places. According to conventional wisdom, everything has been seen, heard, I'm speechless, done. What's going on? Until now.
Now with my Camry V6, I just punch.
Okay. We survived. Hopefully.
David Garza, you're gonna need to mute yourself, buddy.
Okay. So I share that just to show you all the breadth of work that Toyota has done over the years. And for many of those, most of those years, their agency of record has been Saatchi. So we've been with them for many, many years. We work on all of their vehicle launches. Not only do they launch kind of mass market campaigns, but we also work with their multicultural agencies to launch campaigns. None of that work was in here, but we do partner with them on a regular basis, and I'll speak to that in just a second. But some of that work that you saw in there was Prius, some of the Super Bowl work, a bit of the Olympic work that we do on behalf of Toyota because they are a campaign or a global Olympic and Paralympic partner. So we do quite a bit of work for them. And I really just kind of what I do on a day-to-day basis. So I think it's helpful to first level set how the clients work and then how Saatchi works in relation to them. So Toyota is my only client, biggest client that we work with in Dallas and LA. And then under Toyota Motors North America, there's the vehicle marketing development. So they're the actual clients.
David, can you mute yourself, please?
Oh, I can probably mute him.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. I forgot I have the power in this Zoom meeting. So, of course, Saatchi and Saatchi is what we call the TCM or the transcultural mainstream market. So we're meant to develop creative on behalf of the mass market or the mainstream market, which is made up of a diverse group of individuals that both include those multicultural groups, But we also work with those agencies who identify more strategic insights on behalf of African Americans, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, etc. So each of those three agencies we work with on a day-to-day basis on campaign launches. They all have their own account managers, project managers, strategists, creatives, media, PR folks, and so on and so forth. So not only do we work with their account team, but their creative team and all of those other people as well. So it can be a lot of people to keep up with for major launches. Right now, I mentioned I'm working on the Sienna campaign launch. So we are working with all three of those agencies right now, and we just finished a shoot, and that work will be live in January. So my little part of this bucket is the account management bucket. As a supervisor, there are multiple things that I could be doing on any given day. Every day is different. I know that I used to hate when people would say that, but I understand why they used to say it now. So um, I'm responsible for all of these things, communicating client updates and next steps to the team, both internal team and then the full, what we call T squared, or all of those agencies, all four of us, where we as a unit are called T squared. So I'm responsible for being the main contact between all four of those agencies and then our leadership team and our client team. um, Discussing target audiences for an upcoming vehicle launch. So the people who buy a Sienna are very different from the people who buy a 4Runner, Tacoma, Tundra, Corolla. Each of those vehicles has a very unique audience that they're trying to speak to get to buy their vehicles. So for each vehicle, those target discussions are very, very important. I might be test driving the latest Toyota with the creative team and the client team. We test drive very early in the process. It just helps the creative team understand, like, as they're developing campaigns, how it feels to be in the vehicle is really important for them. So we go do that with every new vehicle launch. Meeting with agency partners to discuss campaign ideas. That happens really before we get into the fun part of what are our TV spots going to say, what does an out of home billboard look like, et cetera. So we stay very close with them throughout the campaign development process. After campaigns comes execution. So like I mentioned, commercials, print ads, billboards. We review those all internally. We review them with our leadership team. We review them with all of the agency partners before anything goes to Toyota. We need full alignment internally. I might be learning about the latest hybrid technology. I mentioned Prius earlier. That was my client for the first 2 years, maybe 2.5 that I worked at Saatchi. So I'm intimately familiar with hybrids. Of course, we have a bazillion all agency and team meetings that take up a lot of our time. We might be discussing a media plan, which actually comes pretty late in that process. So that's something that we'll actually be doing here shortly for Sienna because it launches in about 2 months. Scheduling and leading client meetings. So I manage a team of about 6 people across the vehicles that I work on. Most of them are the ones who are actually scheduling the meetings, but it is ultimately my responsibility to make sure that that gets done in a timely manner. We do a lot of research on behalf of Toyota. So consumer research, we work with Toyota's research vendors and research partners to figure out who are the people who are actually going to be most likely to buy a vehicle for any, given vertical. Attending a shoot, so virtual these days. We did just have a shoot for Sienna, 2-day shoot, 12 hours, I think, each day. One was a day shoot, one was a night shoot. And then we might grab a virtual drink with our team because having fun is still important and what advertising is ultimately all about. So I thought it might be helpful to just share some pictures with y'all, because this is kind of a good representation of what we might be doing in any given day. So the top left picture is from a shoot where we shut down a big highway in LA and filmed a Prius spot. The middle is a team happy hour where we went somewhere and made cocktails. Halloween parties, summer parties. The bottom of me right here is actually at Toyota. So we do spend quite a bit of time. Well, we used to spend quite a bit of time there with our clients for meetings, brainstorms, all of those fun things. And again, as the account person, we're really meant to be the bridge between the clients and our internal teams. So we're in every client meeting,
kind of setting up the call, making sure that it runs smoothly, capturing all the takeaways and notes and all of those things so that we can continue to kind of communicate those things back to the internal team and keep the campaign moving. I will talk briefly about this, but as a result of the things that have been going on in the world as of the last 3 to 6 to 9 months, we formed a diversity task force at Saatchi that's really aimed to promote Saatchi as a progressive institution that is diverse and inclusive. So we have probably 10 to 15 initiatives, these aren't all of them, that are aimed to kind of begin to change the culture at Saatchi, because advertising as a whole is not a very diverse group of people. Saatchi is actually, I guess, a little bit on par or better than your industry averages. So a few of our initiatives are to just increase dialogue around the issues that are impacting minorities, but specifically as it related to the summer, Black people in America and our Black employees. We've been working on initiatives around mandatory diversity training, hiring more producers and directors of color, hiring more directors and managers at Saatchi who are people of color, and then raising awareness about the election was something that we just wrapped up as a group. I'm happy to answer more questions about that, but I think I want to just take y'all's questions at this point, if that's okay. Hopefully I didn't breeze through that too fast. I'm gonna stop sharing those so that I can see y'all's questions. And please jump in, and I'm happy to answer anything. Oh yes, Terrence Woodall. I do work with him from time to time. I will tell him that I was here with y'all. Oh, someone said that privately. Sorry, y'all. I didn't mean to blast you like that, but I do work with him. He's not on my team, but I do work with him. I need to read the privately.
But while you're reading the privately, I know there is somebody that you worked with. So Michelle Agnew.
Yes.
I believe she just moved back to LA.
She just moved back to LA. She's one of my favorite people, though.
She's one of my favorite people too. She and I worked together for a long time over at Chiat in LA. So.
Oh, so do you also know Chris Crockett?
Yes.
Yes, he is. I'm working with him as well. He's also amazing. But yes, Michelle, love her.
It's a very small world, guys. I mean, I've never met Carissa, but now already we have connections because of people that we worked with. And she's talking about people that she worked with in Dallas that I worked with in LA. And funny enough, Chris Crockett, his dad is really a Richards Group guy.
Yeah.
And I worked with his dad over at Richards Group and over in LA at Chiat. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah, everyone just bounces around. We have a lot of boomerangs at Saatchi who go somewhere else and realize, oh, Toyota's not that bad. Come on back. So yeah, they circle back quite a bit. I saw a question in the chat about, do I travel much for work? I used to travel to LA probably twice a year. Once for maybe a big important meeting and once maybe for a shoot. Now, of course, no one is traveling. We're on a traveling ban for now, and we probably will be for another few months. So we've done everything virtually. Our clients aren't in the office really, and of course, we're not in the office either. So everything is done virtually. But when we were traveling, I would say I traveled twice, maybe 3 times a year, and then there were people who traveled way more frequently. But since the clients are in Dallas, it's really the LA folks who travel more. I did not work on the elections awareness team, but honestly, our leadership team gave us a lot of leeway and flexibility to kind of make it what we wanted. So we talked about policy, we talked about who was on the ballot, what they stood for. Of course, not sharing an opinion or a POV on who should vote for what reason. We didn't go as far as that, but I'd say we went as far as we could without, causing HR issues. So they actually made a website. I think it's called Saatchi Gets Out the Vote. I think, if y'all want to check that out, it's a very beautiful designed landing page with more information. So yeah. What part of your work history do you think prepared you most for my current position? I would say when I worked at HCB, my first stint there, so I actually was like a contract worker there for 3 months as like a temp worker. And while I was there, I worked in the traffic department. And this agency was like a little bit, now we have like Box and Basecamp and ways of virtually sharing things with one another. At the time, this agency was still using, I think we used to call them like job sleeves, or I don't know what they were called, but they were basically like humongous envelopes.
When was this?
This was not long ago. I mean, this was in like 2013, 2014.
That's what I did when I got out of undergrad and worked
I know. They were
Tracy Law DDB in Dallas.
They were pretty behind the times, but what we used to do was like, you would be routing a print ad and you would print the print ad out on paper, and then you would take it, hey, art director, can you please look at this and sign off or tell me if you have any changes? And they would get their red pen out and they would mark it, and I'd say, thank you. And I would take it back. I would make them make the changes. I would print it again. I would take it back. What that taught me though is two things. One, what each person at the agency did, which was really helpful when you're coming out of college and you're like, I don't know what an art director does or what a copywriter does, because the copywriter checks the copy, the art director checks the design. But that's not something that, you come out of college and you're like, oh, I know exactly what this is. It really helped me figure out who's who, and then to build those relationships and figure out how to talk to people in a way that resonated with them, so that when I needed something done quickly, they were more likely to do it for me. And that's something that I still use very much so today. And I think as account people, that has to be kind of one of our gifts and talents, is just knowing who to ask for what and then how to ask them, because people respond differently. They have different working styles. Do they want you to just pop up on them at their desk while they might or might not be on a call? Or would they prefer you set up time with them to speak separately? Is it fine to ask them a question when they're getting their coffee in the kitchen, and so on? But this is what makes us really good at our jobs, I think. Any tips on finding internships? That's tough. I understand the way that the market is now. I understand that y'all are in quite a pickle. Like I mentioned, I felt like I was in a very similar situation when I graduated from school, but I think the last time I was talking to a group of Texas State students, I said something similar. So if you've heard this already, I apologize. But what I would recommend is make your own internships. If you cannot find one, then start a blog. Go to your local, favorite Tex-Mex place and say, hey, do you have a social media page? Can I manage it for you? Do you need help? Can I help you write copy for your website? Can I help you, whatever it looks like? And I would say, 90% of my internships were unpaid, which is why I had a job when I was in college, because I wanted the experience and I knew I might not get paid for it every time. So I was like, okay, I'm going to work 12 hours a week, 15 hours a week. I'm going to intern 15 hours a week. And then I'll figure out how to fit my school stuff in there eventually. And it proved very helpful for me. Time management, of course, which is something that's really important in our jobs now, but really just figuring out how you can make it work. If you can't find the internship of your dreams, what can you find? What can you do that will help you get those skills that are really helpful for you? I manage social media now for several groups outside of my job, not for Saatchi. And that's just something that I do because I know how to do it. But it's something that I learned when I was interning that I don't use for my current job, but I still do outside of work. So find something, it might not be exactly what you want, but all experience is good experience. It always teaches you something. Hopefully that was helpful. If y'all could give me some feedback in the comments, I would appreciate it. Okay. No, I don't get paid for managing the social media now. I'm also really involved in something that I would recommend as well is right now, I'm really involved in Add to Dallas, which is a young professionals group in Dallas. It's related to AAF, and I am a marketing communications chair there. So I help manage their social media, and then I also help manage my Bible study social media. They're definitely not paying me. So just get in where you fit in and see, what works for you. But definitely those professional industries, I was so late to that game. So if there's something in San Marcos, or if you have to go to Austin to kind of figure out, because there is an ad to Austin that I'm sure would be more than willing to accept you all, get involved with those things. They're always sharing out internships and jobs when they're available. Okay. No, starting a website is not a skill that everyone has. If that's something that you can do that. And also learn how to talk about your experience in a way that's impactful. I can definitely make my social media management skills sound way better than they are in real life. And you can do the exact same thing. If you make a website for them and it's a small business, that doesn't matter. You started a website for a thrift shop who grew their traffic by 150% in 6 months. Done. Learn how to really talk about what it is that you're doing in a way that is impactful. We're advertising and PR professionals. We know how to do that successfully. I think I missed the question. Do certain agencies have certain focuses when it comes to clients, healthcare, advertising, food? Yeah, absolutely. Healthcare is kind of how I started. Of course, now we do automotive. We don't have any other big clients at the moment, but like Saatchi New York does, and the other multicultural agencies that I named earlier, Burrell, Conneal, and Intertrend, who work with African American, Hispanic, and Asian Indian respectively. They all specialize in multicultural advertising for various clients. There are some agencies who only work with more luxury brands, for example. So yeah, definitely do your research. There's all kinds of big agencies who work with, everyone. But there are also some that have niche kind of interests. Yes. Join Ad Club. Definitely do that. Okay. I think I answered all the questions, but I'm happy to answer more if y'all have any.
Well, people are thinking about it. I do want to add something that you mentioned about whether you're creating your own internships, you're doing social media for your Bible study, or for maybe add to, or there are many different ways. So here's the idea, people, and as somebody who used to hire interns for our department, as well as hire new folks in the department, I need something to look at, right? So I need something that's on your resume. And nowadays, a lot of times people are setting up really easy places, either through a blog or through Squarespace, where it's sort of like an online portfolio. And as Carissa mentioned, if she's been doing some social media work for I don't know, a restaurant or for a church or whatever else, she can link that on there. I can go and see that work, right? That's your portfolio.
Yeah.
And so I can see what you've been doing. If you have a website you've built for somebody, that is more content for me to review. It's easier than just getting a resume that doesn't really have much context to it, because I need to know how you think. I need to know that you have that you're creative. I need to know that you have sort of this gumption, right? This grit to go ahead and make things happen. And so there's, yes, some of these internships, some of these social media work that you might do might be free because they're not getting it, and you're not paying you because they might not be able to, especially if it's a nonprofit. But the currency that you get back is the content that you can feature on your website or your blog or whatever else in your portfolio. And just because you're creative, or just because you're not going into creative doesn't mean that you can't do this. A lot of folks who start off going into an agency at the very, very beginning, and Carissa mentioned that she started off in traffic. I did too. My very first job was in project management. I was a traffic manager, and I had to run around those job jackets all over the agency, but I learned so much.
Job jackets.
Yeah, job jackets.
I tried to put days long behind me, but yes.
Yeah, but you know what? But it's something that you learn. And so even if you think you're going to go into account service, you might end up working at a small agency or something really itty bitty, where you have to kind of wear many different hats. And so if you know how to, at least jump in and, put together content for social media, put together posts, a calendar of posts, that sort of thing, and then run it, when you're not doing it anymore, at least you can teach people how to do it and then manage it. So that's what they're looking for. Do you know how things work? Do you know the right way about doing things? Do you know the wrong way about doing some of these things? Once you figure that out, you're much more valuable, because then an employer can look at you and say, you know what, that person, they're going to hit the ground running. I don't have to do much in terms of training.
Yeah. Nicole just asked me to speak to hiring. And I think that's a great segue from what you were just saying about portfolios and websites and all of that. When I graduated, that was like the big thing, to put your, to have a website and put all of your work on there. And at the time, mine was super focused on event planning, and it was not good. Please don't go look at it. But I'm not a creative, right? So especially for the creative folks, it's invaluable to have something like that. For the account folks, maybe not as much, but if you have the work, show it off. I mean, it's great, and it sets you. The biggest thing is that it sets you apart from the other resumes. I'll speak for what I look for when I see resumes. HR usually sends us like 10, and we are supposed to narrow it down to like 5, and they really all look the same. I personally, we work in advertising, so our resumes shouldn't be boring, in my opinion. Put some, again, personality on that resume. I do not like black and white resumes. I prefer a little pop of color from time to time. No pinks, no yellows, nothing like crazy like that. But, something that makes it literally stand out from the rest. Of course, I'm looking at where you went to school. I'm looking at when you graduated. But the biggest thing for me is just experience, and showing that you've tried to get the experience somehow, whether that's internships or, social media management for whomever or wherever, or I wrote this blog for 5 years and I maintained it. That is a great feat. A lot of people start it and then they don't continue it. So that's kind of what I'm looking for when I look at resumes. And it's competitive. It's very, very competitive. Like I mentioned, when I graduated, I didn't get a job at first. And the same thing I see happening now. They'll come in, they'll graduate, they won't get a job, they'll go back and do an internship, and they are 2 years out of college and still have an internship, and I'm like, wow. And now they've done so much that they're overqualified for the entry level job that we're hiring for. So it's difficult. But I think that, for us, it's about knowing whether this person is a good fit for the team. So kind of just going back to what I was saying before, I don't like robots. I don't want to hire robots, and I don't want to work with them. So when, I want to make a connection. Where did you go to school? Do you like college football? What do you do on Saturdays? There's more to you than just what you did. So show that off when you get into your interview. I have no idea about Google certifications. I don't feel qualified to speak on that topic. I did, when I was in undergrad, get like a business minor as well as my double major. Really, I just wanted to get all of the knowledge that I could get. And I'd recommend that to you all as well, especially in this climate where you don't know, could you stay another semester and get another major? Then if you can do that, do that. But yeah, it's going to depend on the person and your situation and where you want to be. Like I said, I wanted to be in Austin, which was, it is what it is. I had a job offer in New York. I didn't take it. It's not what I wanted to do. But I knew people that did not have difficulty getting jobs because they were willing to move across the country. So you have to know what it is that, is going to work for you. There's great agencies on both coasts, and in Chicago and in Atlanta and in Dallas, but do your research and figure out where it is that you really want to be and what kind of clients you want to work with, and then go for it. Oh, Photoshop. Yeah. I didn't do that, but that's a really great tip, Nicole, because yeah, who doesn't understand the concepts is me, which is why I'm in account service, but that's okay.
All right. Any last minute questions, everybody? Oh, I'm seeing what's a Photoshop certification. There's actually a test that you can take through Adobe to get Adobe Photoshop certified. You can get certified in each individual program that Adobe creates, but I also think there is a suite certification, much more difficult. I'm not. I know there's a cost associated with it. It's not for free, but I don't remember what the cost is. So you'd have to look into that. All right. Well, Carissa, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I think all the students were able to appreciate it as well. So if we could all you can take yourself off mute if you'd like, and just give her a round of applause and thank her for being here. Yay.
Thank you, Carissa.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. If y'all have any other questions, add me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to chat with you all. And as you're looking for internships and whatnot, happy to stay connected. So yeah, add me. It was great to meet all of you. And again, thanks for having me.